Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Tina Polsky, Chair of the Palm Beach County Delegation. Excited to welcome the League of Cities members here with us for our annual Legislative Delegation Joint Workshop. At this time, I would like to ask the delegation members to introduce themselves. I will start with Senator, oh, I'm sorry. We're going to start with the, where did I see that? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Representative Roth, would you kindly lead us in the pledge?
Chair, it's my honor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. With that, I welcome everyone. And if we could start with my delegation members, I'll start with Senator Berman, and we can work our way around counterclockwise.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. I'm Lori Berman. I represent District 26, which is South Palm Beach County, Boynton, Delray, and parts of Boca Raton. And then it goes north to Wellington and west to Belle Glade and South Bay. I have with me today two members of my legislative staff, Abby Ross and Daniel DeLaGrange, and happy to be here meeting with the League of Cities. Thank you.
Senator Powell.
Good morning, everyone. I am State Senator Bobby Powell, Jr., representing Senate District 24 here in Palm Beach County. I am excited to join you all for this amazing meeting with the delegation and the League of Cities. Joining me here this morning as a part of my staff is Attorney Diane Andre. I saw her earlier. There she is in the back. Thank you for being here to represent our office, and I'm excited to represent the newly drawn Senate District 24.
Thank you so much. Representative Caruso.
Thank you, Chair. I am State Representative Mike Caruso, representing District 87, which runs from Manalapan, Hypoluxo up to Jupiter, and includes Palm Beach Gardens all the way out to the Turnpike. I'm very excited to be here today. Here with me are my staff, Walter, my legislative aide, Walter Boykus. Stand up, Walter. Yeah, there you go. Walter, could you get me a pair of reading glasses, 1.50s, please? And my district aide, she's new to the scene, Eva Sazanova. And so give her a hand. Stand up. And she's running our office in West Palm Beach. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. I see Vice Chair Harrell, please.
It's a little long. Thank you very much, and it's a delight to be here. I want to welcome you to my district. You are here in District 31. My whole district includes a significant part of Palm Beach County, but also all of Martin County and a small part of St. Lucie County. And I have Tequesta, Jupiter, Juneau, Palm Beach Gardens, Royal Palm Beach, Pahokee, Loxahatchee Groves. I think that's about it. But any of that area out there, it is just a delight to have an expanded district in Palm Beach County, and I am so delighted to be with you today. I have with me my aide, Karen Sweeney, over here, and Carrie Lira. Both are here, and we're available to assist you in any way possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Representative Skidmore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kelly Skidmore. I represent District 92. It's parts of unincorporated Palm Beach County in Boca Raton, Delray Beach, and Boynton Beach. Also here today are my legislative staff, Amy Chamberlain and Dr. Gwen Gonzalez.
Thank you so much. Rep. Casello.
Thank you, Lady Chair. My name is Joe Casello. I represent the Great District 90, which encompasses the cities of Boynton Beach and Delray Beach. I have my two aides here today, Mr. Brian Bees. Stand up, Brian. Thank you. And my legislative aide, Troy Grass. I tell you, folks, that I think I can speak for everyone here. As elected officials, we so rely on our staff to get us from point A to point B and get things done. So we appreciate you. I'm sure we all do appreciate you out there. So thank you for coming.
Thank you. Representative Waldron.
Yes, thank you and good morning. It's great to be here. I've never been to the Ernie Ellis Center. It's a great place. So happy to be here. I am Catherine Waldron. I'm State Representative for District 93, which is Wellington, most of Green Acres, and Western Lake Worth. And I have here with me my legislative aide, Clinton Stryker, sitting next to Vice Mayor Rochelle Witt. So, and thanks a lot. Happy to be here. It's my first year, so I may have some questions that everybody already knows the answers to. So I apologize in advance.
Thank you. Representative Roth.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Representative Rick Roth. I go by the nickname R5. I can explain that later. I have District 94, the new district. My old district was cut in half. I used to have all of Palm Beach Gardens, North Palm Beach, and Juneau Beach, and unincorporated Loxahatchee and Jupiter Farms. Now my district is from the Martin County line to Southern Boulevard, west of the Turnpike, all the way out to Arden, and then continuing all the way out and having Belglade, Pahokee, and South Bay. So I have the largest district. My northern boundary is Martin County line. My western boundary is the Henry County line. And my southern boundary, west of 20 Mile Bend, is the Broward County line. The only problem is cows don't vote. There's a lot of agricultural land in my district, but it really is a pleasure to be here today. I've never been to this location, even though I have been to a few ball games off of Lime Creek Road. My aide, district aide, new district aide, William Ponsel. I just opened a district office on Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. It has a really nice name on the building. It says Farm Credit, and I'm a farmer, so that's kind of funny. So my new district office is on Royal Palm Beach, in Royal Palm Beach on Southern Boulevard. Happy to be here. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'll introduce myself while our other new member gets settled. I am State Senator Tina Polsky. I represent District 30. I have the most southern part of Palm Beach County in southern Boca Raton, and then a lot of northwest Broward County. So I'm lucky to have multiple counties that I represent. I'm here with my aides, J.J. Piscadlo and Cariana Ingram. Wave, say hello, thank you. And we have Robert Mariaja back in the district office. So thank you all for being here. Representative Gossett Seidman, if you could say hello and introduce anyone who's here and tell us about your district.
Thank you. Yes, Peggy Gossett Seidman, District 91, which is Boca Raton, Highland Beach, and a pocket of the county out to 441 in southwestern county. And excuse my lateness, the traffic, we'll have to do something about the traffic, but thank you and a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So we have introduced all of our members. And at this time, I would like to ask Lawrence Gordon, Palm Beach League of Cities, and the League of Cities board members, Richard Radcliffe, Executive Director, Palm Beach League of Cities, and if President Gordon has any welcoming comments before your board introduces himself.
Just, first of all, good morning, and just a word or two. For those of you who don't know me, I am Lawrence Gordon. I'm vice mayor in the town of Haverhill. Haverhill is just west of the airport. We're totally surrounded by West Palm Beach, which is a good thing to have that buffer. I'm currently in the process of rolling over into my 7th term as councilperson and vice mayor. Upon completion of the upcoming term in this coming March, which I've just been reelected without opposition, that'll be 15 years that I've been working on behalf of the people of Haverhill, and it's a great little town. And it is an honor and a pleasure to work with the League of Cities and to do all the things that we do. And with that, I'm going to ask the league members to introduce themselves, starting with John Paul from Westlake.
Thank you, President Gordon. Madam Chair, thank you. I am Mayor John Paul O'Connor, better known as J.P. O'Connor. I represent the great and innovative, very new city of Westlake, Florida. We are Palm Beach County's 39th municipality, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Ms. Johnson.
Good morning. Am I okay with the sound? Okay, very good. Good morning and a Happy New Year to all of you. I'm Shirley Johnson, and I'm proud to say that I'm serving as City Commissioner from the City of Delray Beach, and I am so excited to be here today.
Mayor Reed?
Good morning. My name is Chelsea Reed. I am proud to be the mayor of my hometown in Palm Beach Gardens. I was recently reelected without opposition, so I get to finish my second term, and then I'm termed out. So we have 3 more years together. And I'm also proud to be the second vice president here of our Palm Beach County League of Cities, as well as the chair of the Palm Beach Transportation Planning Agency, as well as their Transportation Disadvantage Board. And I chair way too many other things, so I won't bore you with that. But it's lovely to be here today. I can't wait to hear all about this. Bobby, you're done. Who do we go to next?
And our
Richard?
Executive Director, Richard?
Richard Ratcliffe, Executive Director, Palm Beach County League of Cities. If Jerice and Aziza stand up, they're the ones who helped put it together on our side. And we do this with the legislative delegation, but you have no idea what's involved. It's lots of fun. And with that, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. I assume we're going to segue into,
You have a couple of
Paul,
Yes.
Paul and Molly.
who else we have?
That's me.
Oh,
Good morning, everybody.
Shalhoub.
I'm the mayor of Lake Clark Shores, Paul Shalhoub, the gem of Palm Beach County. Thank you very much for having me here. I'm also now serving my second term as chair for the Florida League of Cities Finance, Taxation, and Personnel Committee. I'm happy to be representing them here today as well. Look forward to hearing what everybody has to say.
Molly.
Good morning, everyone. Molly Young. I'm the mayor of the Village of DeQuesta. I just was reelected unopposed for my seat as well, so I'll be there for another 2 years, and excited to be here this morning. Thank you.
And go ahead.
Dan Comerford, the mayor of the tiny town of Jupiter Inlet Colony on the southern tip of Jupiter Island. I just ran unopposed for my 12th term as mayor since 2004. And I am the vice chair of the Natural Resources, Environment, and Utility Committee for the league.
And in conjunction with what Attorney Shalhoub said, we have 5 policy committee members with the Florida League of Cities, and 2 of those serve as chair, so we're very actively involved, and we take pride in representing Palm Beach County. And Attorney Shalhoub and Jeff Romero of Royal Palm Beach are committee chairs. And with that, we'll go into the next segment.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you for you all to present your priorities, and then we can have questions from all members after.
All right, thank you. I will lead it off. One of my passions has always been the housing challenge that we have here in Palm Beach County and throughout the state at large. And I'll start by simply basically quoting what the league position is. Affordable housing, the Palm Beach County League of Cities supports legislation that requires all monies from the Sadowski State and Local Housing Trust Fund be used only for Florida's affordable housing programs targeted to meet the needs of workforce housing, including low income, very low income, and disabled persons for both home ownership and rental unit availability. Palm Beach County currently has approximately 1.5 million people, and it's expected to grow at almost 1% a year through 2045. That means that by 2045, we're going to be adding another 250,000 people or so. And that in itself is a major, major challenge. And I'm sure some of you have heard the statistics in terms of how many people we're adding to the state in general every day. Here in Palm Beach County, one of our challenges is the median prices of homes being almost $500,000, average price being about $1 million or so. And most working class people just can't afford housing in that kind of stratosphere. The median household income here is $65,000, and the average household income is $105,000. So look at those numbers when you look at housing costing $500,000 and up. It doesn't take much to figure out that it's a real challenge. We're having a problem maintaining teachers, hospitality workers, young professionals, firemen, policemen, because they can't afford to live here. So if we can't come up with something to keep this housing challenge under control, we're just going to continue to slide backwards as opposed to going forward. And not only in terms of purchasing a house, but renting. There are some places where one-bedrooms are nearing $2,000 each, two-bedrooms in excess of $2,500. So if you are a hospitality worker or a hotel worker or working at a restaurant, it's very difficult for you to find a place to live here. And we can't exist without all these worker bees. We need these worker bees. So we need to come up with some kind of program to help them find affordable housing, because we have people driving 50, 60 miles each way from less expensive markets working here because they can't afford to rent or buy here. And we've got to take this challenge on head first. The average rule of thumb is that people should pay about a third of their income for housing. We have people paying 50, 60, 65% of their income. So clearly that is a major challenge. And just think about it. If you're earning $15 an hour, that's what, $35,000, $38,000 a year, and then you got to drive 50, 60 miles from wherever, paying for the gas. Then you got to spend almost $2,000 for an apartment. I mean, that makes it almost impossible to live. So I ask everybody to give serious consideration and serious thought to the challenge of affordable housing, and let's work together and do everything that we can to improve this situation, because we need to fix it. Thank you. Shirley, you're up next.
Thank you.
Short-term rentals.
Thank you very much.
Chair, can I ask a question? Are we going to go all the way to the end and then ask questions?
I think that's what we should do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everyone can take notes, and then we'll come back, because otherwise we might not get through everything.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting that I'm preceded by the thoughts about housing, because what I'm going to discuss is definitely a part of that. Delray and many of our other municipalities, hamlets, et cetera, have been impacted for more than 15, maybe more years, since at least 2018, with the advent of short-term rentals, also known by the state as vacation rentals. I have the pleasure of sharing the information from the Florida League concerning the Municipal Administration Committee's choice of, once again, tackling short-term rentals. As you are well aware, this priority has been on the League's radar since the state preempted local rules and regulation in 2011. Why haven't we moved on, given up, and accepted the belief that that's the way it is, because this issue affects every small town, hamlet, to every big city in the state, and it's only gotten worse over the years. Where someone enters into the realm of a short-term rental, be aware, again, as I said, that the state considers it vacation rentals. I'd like to give you a quick short history, if you don't mind, especially for any newly elected official. In 2008, with the downfall or crisis in the housing market, many homeowners began renting out that spare, empty bedroom as a means to earn additional income. Spurred on by a growing industry of vacation rentals and a strong state lobby, by 2011, the state issued the very first law concerning this subject. Cities were preempted from regulation or regulating short-term rentals, vacation rentals, in 2011. Effective July, with an existence, unless the city had an existence ordinance at that time, they were not allowed to, any other city was not allowed to were not allowed to enact any ordinances. These cities that had ordinances before 2011 were considered grandfathered, and that's very important because not a lot of cities had the forethought at that particular time to have anything on their books that would regulate these short-term rentals. Cities without an ordinance lost the ability to regulate the location of these properties, resulting in a proliferation of short-term rentals in areas that had traditionally been long-term residential neighborhoods. There's been some loosening over the years, gradually hard fought by the league and lobbyists in 2014 and 2016. However, there has been no return to home rule. Currently available solutions for cities are inadequate and will not solve the problems that many communities are facing. As we struggle to emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic, Florida has become a haven for a retreat, a resting place, and an opportunity to enjoy the outdoors with our sun and freedom in the sun, year-round and not always available elsewhere. Florida officially shut down with restrictions on April the 1st, 2020, but reopened immediately in September on the 25th, 2020, where all restrictions were lifted. This freedom helped to fuel a surge in those seeking an outlet from home confinement. The short-term rental platforms assisted with their ads on a daily basis, and our situations became worse in the local areas. In addition, the entry into the market of properties formerly used by the drug recovery community switched to the short-term rental market inventory, and the ability to use these properties for weekend parties surged in areas around many of our colleges and universities. For example, in Delray on Tuesday, a fellow commissioner reported that doing a research on Google, he saw that there were 1,000 short-term rentals listed on the computer for just Delray. I can assure you that we do not have all 1,000 in our city's database in that status. The restoration of zoning authority will allow cities to implement smart, targeted solutions to problems caused by vacation rentals, some statewide but many local to each individual place, and will help ensure the preservation of traditional residential communities and neighborhoods. It cannot get any more local than that. Therefore, the Florida League of Cities and the Palm Beach County League supports legislation that restores authority to local governments for the regulation of short-term rental properties as necessary for quality of life, public safety, and a fair lodging marketplace. Number two, the Florida League of Cities supports legislation clarifying that existing grandfathered municipal short-term rental ordinances can be amended without penalty. And lastly, number three, the Florida League of Cities opposes legislation that preempts municipal authority as it relates to the regulation of short-term rental properties. Thank you.
Mayor Reed.
Good morning again. Thank you all. Before we begin, I want to take an informal poll about mobility, and this can go for the audience too. If you got here on a bus or other method of transit, could you raise your hand? If you got here, I know, I understand, or circulator, Uber. So did anyone take an Uber or any other shared ride? Okay. Anyone take a bike? Anybody walk? All right. Who drove here? Who drove here in a carpool?
We do.
Okay. Who drove here alone in your car in traffic? All right. Let's talk about mobility then. That's what we're here to talk about. So, obviously, this is a statewide issue with an immediate effect on all of our municipalities, and especially on home rule, not to mention the everyday of even just getting us here today. We have picked a priority here at the Florida League of Cities that can actually get through, and it is a win, win, and a win. It is a win because it's a win for home rule, it's a win for our state legislatures, and it is a win for our residents. Making mobility a priority for the Florida League of Cities gives us a rare and opportune chance to have our municipalities work together with our legislature and our counties to avoid conflict. It's an opportunity to collaborate with our legislature to avoid preemption and to decrease that conflict wasted time, and taxpayer money. Putting this policy in place for statewide allows our municipalities to be proactive with implementation, moving forward with an initiative instead of a defensive reaction. So I'm going to read the support from the city. I'm from Florida League of Cities. The Florida League of Cities supports legislation that defines and clarifies mobility plans in order to provide a clear and concise regulatory framework for Florida cities to acquire, construct, and implement both traditional and alternative modes of transportation. Let me tell you a little bit about how we got here. The legislature first established mobility fees to provide developers a simplified alternative to transportation concurrency, prop share, and road impact fees. Therefore, a mobility fee is charged instead of the usual impact fee. However, the way it is written now, developers can be billed for both. Back in 2013, the legislature did try to refine this system, culminating in the creation of mobility plans and fees as a legally viable alternative to traffic concurrency. However, this revised legislation wasn't specific, and the language is not clear enough that counties and cities can find agreement, and we want to clarify that. And specifically, I should say for Palm Beach Gardens, I know you guys know that we've had some issues with our county regarding mobility fees. This might bookend us. It may not fix it for us, but we don't want this kind of a struggle to continue for all of the residents of Florida. This is a chance to fix it, using us as an example of how it could go wrong. The existing way of getting people around our state is broken. The original model of roadway capacity that built our state doesn't move traffic. Adding lanes just adds cars and traffic to the roads. And it moors people in access deserts. We're talking about workforce, affordable housing, essential services, whatever you care to call it. It is worthless if you are shipwrecking your residents where they can't get out or in to get to work, to get to play, to get to school, to get to health care. So even if you do make affordable housing in certain areas, the cost of transportation might actually negate the savings that you just made. This proposed legislation clearly identifies how this can be fixed and who benefits. Mobility policy gives systematic impact directly on the quality of life of our residents, bringing together land use, affordable housing, and smart growth. It's of critical impact to provide our residents access to all needs, from employment to education to healthcare and recreation. And it ties directly in, as I said, not just to affordable housing, but transportation for seniors and the transportation disadvantaged. It allows those without the option of having a car to get to work, to get to school, or to get to health care. So the current proposed mobility legislation, if adopted with your help, would successfully accomplish three primary objectives. It would prohibit the imposition of a transportation or road impact fee within a designated area for mobility through a mobility plan, which means no more double fees for your developers. Doesn't that sound good? Wouldn't they be more likely to come? The mobility fee, as adopted, must fully mitigate the development's transportation impacts, which means if that development comes in, those impacts will be mitigated by utilization of this mobility fee, not just the impact fee. And third, in a mobility plan area, only a mobility fee charged by the local government issuing the development's building permits may be collected. Another agency may not collect. So here's how it works. Adopting mobility means you are not entirely beholden to concurrency. If you have questions about concurrency, I'm happy to chat about that too, but I'm assuming everyone knows how that works. Mobility fees provide money to fund various methods to move people rather than continuing to build only roads to move our cars. So unlike transportation or road impact fees, mobility fees are not limited to expanding vehicular lanes or miles. So road impact fees only widen a lane or let you out a turn lane. We want to stop having that happen. We want to give other opportunity for mobility. Mobility fees can be used to build multi-purpose sidewalks, which could house pedestrians, bicycles, golf carts, low-speed EVs. Mobility fees can be used to purchase short-range multi-passenger electric vehicles, microbuses, even water taxis, and things like that to address all types of transportation needs. Just recently during Hurricane Ian, there was an island that couldn't get people on or off the island unless they owned a boat. If they would have had a mobility fee, they could have had a water taxi. They could have done several different ways to get people off. So it doesn't matter if you're urban, suburban, or a little island that got taken off from the causeway. Mobility fees could have helped that. This legislation also puts home rule control over municipalities' transportation needs back into the hands of the municipality. This will work. This can apply to any and all Florida municipalities, whether urban, rural, or even a small island, as I said. They can be used for roadways. That doesn't mean that the roadway goes away. Your road builders are not going to be worried. You can still build a road, but you can do more than just widen it or add a turn lane if you use a mobility fee. Again, this allows for home rule, for counties, municipalities to work together to decide what a connected network looks like for your residents. And it ties the knot for affordable housing. Why build it if they can't come and go? And then again, you lose the chance of collecting 2 fees. Not very developer friendly. That's not going to help us make Florida better. We do have a tremendous amount of support already from elected officials, especially in Tallahassee, and we look forward to support from developers, builders, road builders, and more. So, one last thought, just to help you clarify it. I'm sure you've read in the paper recently about the transportation planning agencies encouraging Okeechobee Boulevard to consider putting light rail down the center. So I want you guys to imagine we're on Okeechobee Boulevard right now. You're alone in your car, as you normally would be. I want you to pretend there's 200 people here. If we take those 200 people and we put them in cars, that's about 117 cars. If we take those people and put them in buses, that's 3 buses. If we take those people and put them on a train, that's 1 train. So while you're sitting in your car alone, if you see a train go by while you're stuck in traffic, what would you rather be on? Thank you.
Train. Dan Comfort.
Okay, as I said, I'm on the Utility, Natural Resources, and Environment Committee. I'm the vice chair this year. And more often than not, our priority is around water, almost every year. Water, water, water. And earlier, somebody referenced that the fact that Florida's population is increasing every year and will continue to increase. And our tourism depends on it, our hotel rate depends on it, lots of things depend on it, housing depends on it. Nobody's coming if the water is lousy, and that's the truth. So we won't have to worry about mobility or cars or housing or any of that, because if nobody can drink the water or nobody can recreate in the water is dirty, if the Indian River Lagoon is causing the problems it's been causing, or the Caloosahatchee is backed up and causing problems on the West Coast, it's going to be a mess. So again, this year, our priority involves water and watersheds and better management plans, and tries to address a unified program for the legislature so that all programs are unified under one title, because there are programs in place. You have many programs in place, I'm happy to say, and tries to put all of those programs in some kind of cohesive way so that the funding is in place long-term under various trusts. So the priority reads, League of Cities supports legislation establishing statewide coordinated planning and prioritization approach to water resource investments that funds Florida's current and projected water needs in an equitable manner, and authorizes comprehensive watershed management projects to qualify for funding under the State Water Protection and Sustainability Trust Fund, which is already in place. And it's projected that there's an $840 million shortfall projected over the next 10 years. So to address that, we need some coordinated efforts to take all of these, we're calling them fractured programs, that are in various different departments. The good news is that the governor last year or the year before took a lot of these programs and put them under the auspices of the DEP. So at least now, most of them are being coordinated by DEP. And I'm happy to see that the governor just allotted $350 million for cleaning up some problems that the Indian River Lagoon has experienced just in the last 3 days, thanks to all of your help. And so that certainly will help. So by examining these programs and having a comprehensive plan, not only short-term but long-term, meaning through several legislative periods, we hope that this will happen. And these programs include all alternate water supply programs, water storage programs through revolving loan funds, and wastewater management programs, sometimes all under the umbrella of integrated water management plans, or what's commonly referred to as one water plans. Okay, so we hope that you will take this proposal and take it seriously under a water protection and sustainability program, which folds into your current program, which is the Water Protection and Sustainability Program Trust Fund. So there are programs in place. You have an umbrella program operated under DEP, and just have to look long-term and cover this. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Attorney Shalhoub.
Thank you very much. Hello again, everybody. Mayor Paul Shalhoub, Town of Lake Clark Shores. I'm also the chair of the Finance, Taxation, and Personnel Committee. For the first time during my 6 or so years tenure on this committee, we actually had two really close priority and policy position statements. And Mayor Young is going to go over our priority statement, which was the enterprise fund transfer. But our policy position is the property tax protection. And the reason it became the policy position versus the priority is simply because of the immediate nature of what could happen in the legislature over the next few months versus when property taxes could come under essential attack and or be restricted in 2024. So one thing I think a lot of us have heard is our residents are coming to us saying, well, let's lower taxes. You had this big boom in the housing market. All these prices went up. The municipalities made a lot more money than they did the year before. We need to lower taxes. And my municipality, my town, certainly had those increases from residents. The unique thing about it was the majority of those people, if not every single one of them, were capped at the 3%. And so their taxes were going up $80 a year, $60 a year, right? It's the people that were buying these $800,000 homes, these $1.3 million homes in my town, or higher. Those are the people that were really kind of getting affected. And again, they probably could afford it. At least no one's come to me and asked me in those homes to lower the taxes. The big concern amongst the large group of people in my community was they're looking back to what happened in 07 and 08, when you had these huge boom in 07 and the taxes got cut, and then 08 came around and property values plummeted, and 09 and 10, and they kept dropping. And these municipalities were hamstrung because it took a monumental effort to get taxes back up, and meanwhile they're operating year over year with limited funds. And the big concern was, all right, we just had a ballot measure fail by a narrow margin last year. What's going to happen if property taxes come under attack again? And then again, the housing market drops off a good bit, and all this money that supposedly these municipalities are getting simply isn't there anymore. In 2020, we all took a hit because of the restrictions and the lockdown. 2021, we started seeing, return on revenue and increase money in. And then finally in 2022, the money really started to come in because the housing market absolutely exploded. But the fact of the matter is, it's not going to continue to explode. It's already started to plateau. Inventory is starting to build. And the municipalities rely on so much of this money to function and provide proper services. And if we lose the ability because of additional tax breaks being provided on the property tax level, then we got to find out another way to supplement that income or otherwise operate with less money, which means cutting back services. And that is something that severely worried every single member of my committee, to the point where it was the simple, immediate nature of what could happen with the enterprise fund transfer in the next few months that led that to becoming the priority. In fact, it was seemingly in the beginning of our discussions, the property tax protection was the priority up until further discussion was had. And it was like, okay, well, nothing can actually happen in the next 3 or 4 months or 5 months on this. So let's shift it. And even then, the vote was, 55-45 of the committee. So here's the language for the policy position. The Palm Beach County League of Cities supports legislation that maintains an equitable property tax system while preserving a municipality's ability to fund public infrastructure, police, fire, emergency services, and other essential services. Any further erosions and/or exemptions on the current property tax structure will unfairly shift the tax burden to the business community, renters, and others. And that last part is key because you have a budget. You have to operate. I think all of us strive to make sure we have a tight budget and we're not spending in areas we don't need to spend. So when you start losing money, you got to find a way to supplement, or you're going to just have to cut back other services. And if you're supplementing, you are going to be putting that burden on the renters, on the business community, and on the community in a whole in some other way wherever you can find it in order to maintain your same level of services. So I just want to everybody to keep that in mind, that despite the fact that we had a great 2022, was it like a 12% overall increase, that just is not sustainable. And eventually things are going to plateau and start to decrease, and we're going to be operating each municipality with less and less funds for the years to come until there's another boom. So just keep that in mind, and I'll answer any questions that anybody has later. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. J.P. O'Connor.
Absolutely. Again, Mayor J.P. O'Connor from the City of Westlake. I'm here today to present to you with laser focus, out of respect for the schedule, on the topic of transportation funding, but more specifically, alternative and innovative transportation funding and transportation infrastructure funding. The federal government set a target calling for 50% of new vehicles to be electric by 2030 and 100% by 2035. Personally, I ordered the Tesla Cybertruck 2 years ago. I'm patiently waiting for it. I hope it arrives by 2035 at this point, but the way it goes. As we all know, electric vehicles don't use gas, yet building and maintaining transportation infrastructure and highways is still largely funded by gas taxes. If electric vehicles increase in line with the forecasts, and these are national figures, tax proceeds will decline by 21 to 30% by 2035. I'm going to repeat that. A 30% decrease in gas tax revenue by 2035 due directly to the increase in electric vehicles. Now, I am in absolutely no way advocating that we raise the gas tax. I'm advocating for legislation, creative legislation, to find alternatives to fund future transportation needs. Myself and the Palm Beach County League of Cities supports creative and innovative legislation that will identify additional transportation revenue to fund innovative infrastructure to meet the surging transportation demands driven by the growth and the population coming to our great state of Florida. I will read the direct policy position. The Palm Beach County League of Cities supports legislation directing the Florida Department of Transportation to provide financial assistance and incentives to develop and implement multimodal transportation plans that optimize different modes of combined transport and are tailored to municipal transportation demands. The Palm Beach County League of Cities supports identifying additional transportation revenue to fund innovative infrastructure, e.g., electric vehicles, and transit projects to meet the surging transportation demands driven by growth in population throughout Florida. I'm not saying that I have the solution or that we have the solution. I'm saying that we need a solution because this is a problem now. It's going to be a much, much, much bigger problem later. And if we don't get in front of it now, we're going to be in big trouble. So we need to find creative legislation, to find alternatives to fund the roads that all these vehicles are going to be using. And I thank you.
Thank you. Molly, you're up.
Hey, good morning again. I'm pleased to be able to speak on the League's Enterprise Fund Transfer Priority. I was on the Finance, Taxation, and Personnel Committee this last year that drafted the priority, and the Village of DeQuesta operates several enterprise funds, so I'm familiar with the topic. As you all are probably aware, during the 2022 legislative session, House Bill 621 and Senate Bill 1162 were filed. Those would have prohibited state agencies and water management districts for dispersing state funds, including grants, to sorry, I lost my train of thought, to local government for infrastructure, water, and resiliency projects if that local government had transferred utility revenues, with the exception of admin and support services for use in providing general government functions and services. Those bills never got a hearing, and as of now, they have not been filed again this year. Currently, cities can transfer utility revenues as needed to supplement other general funds for other municipal operations. This continued flexibility for municipalities to be able to do that is vital and supported by the League. To make this relatable, the Village of DeQuesta has several enterprise funds, such as our water utility, our stormwater utility, and our refuse and recycling. These enterprise funds operate in a manner that is similar to a business, whereby user fees are charged for goods and services to self-support the fund, and we do run them fairly lean as to not overcharge our users. Prior to raising our utility fees, DeQuesta hires a utility consultant to provide a financial forecast and capital recovery study to ensure that we're charging our users a fair amount. We currently have active projects such as water main replacements and well rehabilitations, where we're investing our user fees back into the utility. If there was ever a time we would need to transfer our utility revenues to the general fund, we would like to preserve the ability to do so. So if these bills were to get filed again this year, I would ask that you please feel free to reach out to me to discuss them in more detail before making any decisions that affect our mutual constituents. And not just this matter, all the matters discussed today and anything else that may pop up during this session, we are here to support you with any local data and input. So thank you for your support and your service and commitment to making our state, which I think is the best state to live in.
Thank you. We have now reached the portion of our program where we're going to entertain questions, discussions, and general comments. Mr. Roth.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Gordon. I do have several comments I'd like to make. I'll comment in the order that y'all made your presentation. The first one was affordable housing. I'm happy to hear the League of Cities is continuing to have that be their top priority, which is one of my top priorities. I do have a couple of suggestions to the League of Cities, and maybe that would include y'all coming to Tallahassee to support legislation that we could pass to increase the amount of dollars that would go to affordable housing. We did pass legislation 2 years ago, and we did change the funding formula for affordable housing. I will politely say the idea of going back to where we were before is probably not going to happen in the current regime. So what we really need to be asking for is to change the mix. We are now having about 48% of the Sadowski go to affordable housing, and then the remaining part is split evenly between resiliency and septic to sewer and wastewater. I think everybody in the state of Florida knows, particularly in South Florida, that affordable housing, we're about 30 years behind the curve. Wastewater and septic to sewer, we're behind. Resiliency, I actually believe we're actually ahead of the curve. So my argument is we need people to be advocating that we change the formula that's in current law to increase the percentage, and I think we can do that. The second thing we can do, I think, is members of cities and county government in Palm Beach County, is let's all focus together on what Palm Beach County is doing with their affordable housing program. We just passed a bond issue, so I think we need to be aware of the fact that the better job that Palm Beach County does and the cities in Palm Beach County do handling affordable housing dollars, it is my goal that we reward people for good behavior. If you're doing a great job of actually taking land that the county owns and setting it aside for affordable housing, then you should be rewarded. I'll stop there, Chair. I would like to talk on some other issues, but I'll limit my remarks to that first one. Thank you.
I think Senator Harrell wanted to make a comment.
Thank you very much. I do have a couple questions. First of all, on the mobility issue, I know this has been a big issue. I was chairman of transportation last year, and I would encourage, and I would ask the question, the specific recommendations you're making, have you worked with the Association of Counties, and are they in agreement with your proposals? That, to me, is the key. Don't have us give you an usurp your ability to make decisions. You all come together and give us what your joint ideas are to make this work.
I agree 1,000%, and I would love some help from our county to help work with that as well. We need to collaborate together to go forward, to bring it to the Association of Counties. We've got a lot of interest from legislature as well as counties that are not Palm Beach County. So I do look forward to that. I don't have an answer as to where the Association of Counties feels about it. I'll let them speak on that, and I'll get back to you on that, too.
Thank you very much. I do have another issue I do want to address as well. I think when we're looking at the transportation funding and how we deal with EVs, and this is a very complex issue. I've been to several different conferences addressing that. So if you have specific ideas on how we continue to fund roads and mobility, we are definitely, the state of Florida is definitely looking for ideas. I know, road uses charges and things of that sort have all been discussed, but everything I've heard so far has complications. And how do
Absolutely.
you enforce it, especially since we have 150 million visitors each year that come from out of state, so you just can't put a license fee tag, a tag fee or something of that sort. So we are open to ideas and very much interested in presenting that. And when it comes to water resources, I couldn't agree with you more. Our environment is our economy in Florida, and our water resources are absolutely essential. And I'm delighted with the money that went into Indian River Lagoon. I passed Legacy Florida several years ago that gives us a direct funding source for Everglades restoration. It's made a huge difference in completing projects. So I would ask for the delegation and for the League of Cities support when I file Legacy Florida 2.0, which is going to give a direct funding source from Amendment 1 money to do Indian River Lagoon restoration, including local runoff, septic to sewer, and those types of projects. So I will be filing that and would ask for the League's support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Other questions, comments?
I have one.
Yes.
Go ahead, Senator.
Oh, I missed you. Go ahead. Thank you, Senator.
Rep. Caruso.
Go ahead, Senator.
Okay. One of the things, when it comes to affordable housing, even here in Palm Beach County, we've obviously got to do more as it relates to, we're talking about 20,000 additional units over the next 10 years. And what we have done in Tallahassee, Rep. Roth explained it exactly. We've cut the funding in half. I think this year we were around 386 or 68 million that was funded for Sadowski in terms of affordable housing. But that would have been over $700 million had the formula had not been changed. So we have to really, as I'll agree with Representative Rolfe, we have to look at the way that mix is. I would like for it to go back to, you pay your Sadowski fund, you pay that tax, and it all goes to being able to be used for affordable housing, because that's a big problem here. In terms of the vacation rentals, this has been an issue that we've been dealing with in Tallahassee for quite some time. As technology continues to change and increase, you're seeing Vrbo and Airbnb, and there's another one that you're continuing to see, and technology is going to continue to change. I would hope that maybe a statewide mechanism that catches where these vacation rentals are so that they end up paying their fees, and also the communities know where they are and they can regulate them within the confines of that what the state has had. We've dealt with this issue. I think one of the issues that the vacation rental entities have complained about is municipal boundaries are so quick. You know, Haverhill is surrounded by West Palm Beach, but Haverhill can have its own set of rules, and then as they operate outside of Haverhill and West Palm Beach, there's another set of rules. So it may be even a statewide database of how this works for communities will be helpful, and we're willing to work on those with the league. Transportation, Mayor Reed, as you know, as a planner, I think it's of the utmost importance here in Florida, especially South Florida, with us being less dense and more spread out. It just becomes a little bit easier for people to get in a SOV, which is a single occupancy vehicle, to make it to where they have to go. And if we had more routes that go east and west as opposed to just north and south with like the Bright Line and Tri-Rail, we may have the opportunity to do some type of intermodal mix that would allow people to get out of their cars. As West Palm Beach, especially the downtown, continues to grow, it would be amazing if there were a way to get people in and out of the downtown without having to have them parked. Because what I see happening, we recently saw an influx or an uptick in terms of the parking rates in West Palm Beach, which were doubled in many cases, but that's still less than what you'll see if you go down to Miami for a day. So it recently happened, but I believe as more and more people move into the downtown area of West Palm Beach, those prices are going to continue to increase just based off of demand. So we have to look at alternatives to be able to move people. Water, those are the environment, of course. You know, we will continue to work on that, and I'll leave it at that.
Representative Caruso.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to commend the League of Cities. I think you hit it out of the park this year, nailing down the issues, affordable housing, vacation rentals, mobility, clean water, property taxes, gas tax versus electric vehicles, and how we're going to replace those funds. You know, so many times I hear home rule, home rule, home rule, but today we got specifics, and I really want to thank you for bringing out those specifics. I just touch base on a couple of them on the issues while I've got the mic. I guess Mayor Comerford, the clean water. You're spot on with it. Without clean water, Florida's not Florida, is my motto. And this year I'm running a bill. I ran it last year. I'm going to run it again this year, tweaking it a little bit so I can get it through all the committees and to the House floor. But has to do with septic tank maintenance. And we know that we have 2.4 million septic tanks in the state of Florida. And when I started in the Florida House, we had 2.1 million. Today we have 2.4 million in the state of Florida. And there's no system, there's no methodology. Very few cities have required maintenance of those septic tanks. And the bill that I propose is to require septic tanks 15 years or older to be serviced every 5 years. And I was wondering if the League of Cities if that's something, you know, knowing that septic tanks, 80% of them don't work at optimization standards, 80% of those septic tanks, and so they're leaking into our system. In fact, the county, I know, determines how much pollutants are, how much those septic tanks are leaking just from the amount of Tylenol that they monitor in the intercoastal. So we know they're leaking into our water system, and we want to get them maintained. So I'm wondering if the League of Cities, if that's something that the League of Cities is going to get behind and support.
Yeah, I think the league would have no problem supporting that. Yeah, the problem was, as you know, that there was a bill that actually was passed for maintenance and then was changed after the fact. Senator Powell can help me on this, but 8 years ago, 10 years ago, and there was a maintenance program in past, but because there's cost involved, what happens sometimes is if there's a mandated cost with something, then the league gets in a tricky situation where, if it's passing on a cost and the cost is unfunded, a mandated cost, they then have a problem with, we were very fortunate because, I've said this before, it sounds obnoxious every time I say it, but I continue to say it. We have a lot of money, our town, so we took everybody off of septic years ago.
And I want to commend you for that. You've
Well,
done a great job.
it was the smartest thing we ever did. It cost a lot of money, but we did it, and then we assessed our people, and it cost about, $25,000 a house, and nobody even came to the meeting. When we made the final assessment. So, good for us. Okay, fine, but it's great. It's fantastic, and we could have went with the low pressure system, which means you actually have your own lift station at every house, which requires electricity.
Right.
And we didn't want to go with that. We went with the most expensive program, which was to have it all by gravity, which causes some disruption because you got to rip up stuff to make it all work by gravity. But it's fantastic.
And I too, Mayor.
And I did come and testify a few times up in Tallahassee, and and I've gone to other towns and encouraged them to do it, and with a little bit of incentive from the state, so that it isn't, you have to fund it by yourself, and a few rules like not putting your septic system, 8 feet from your bulkhead, because they do leak.
That's what, right, they do.
If they're not maintained, so your bill would be, I think, very well received, because
That's
they
good
need to be
hear.
maintained.
And, I think that, the ultimate goal is to get rid of septic tanks and go straight to,
Yeah, please.
Sewer systems. And I think that's something that the state should work towards in terms of their infrastructure. But that being said, if I could just bear with me, I have one more question for Mayor Reed, if that's okay. Thank you. I love your comments about mobility and all. I just wanted to, you mentioned multi-purpose sidewalks, mini buses. I'm tired of seeing these large buses go down the road empty. I think the transition to mini buses is probably the way to go, with a more frequent scheduling in smaller buses, vans type things. I'd love to get together with you if you want to say more on that. I'd love to hear it.
I'll speak briefly, and I'd love to get together as well. What I'd like to say is that PalmTran, so being the chair of the Transportation Disadvantaged Board means I get to oversee the disadvantaged abilities for folks in the county to get off and on our PalmTran system, and it's given me the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the Go Glades system, which is a mobility on-demand system that is utilized in the Glades area. So it's pretty much an Uber on a small bus so that people can get around. And I have a meeting this week with PalmTran about considering putting mobility on demand within Palm Beach Gardens as well. So you won't see giant empty buses anymore. You'll see smaller buses. We're trying to get, again, not only TPA hat, we're getting more of an electric fleet for them as well. Some of that funding has been disrupted by the State Road 7 disagreement, but we are promising them as many electric buses and smaller buses as possible. So that is happening, and it's up to us as leaders to bring it into our municipalities, into the county, to support PalmTran as they do it. But I think that what it looks like now compared to what it'll be in about 10 or 15 years, we're already working really hard on that.
That's great. Thank you.
Senator Berman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I too have a few comments on some of the things that we discussed today. And I would like to start with saying that these are great ideas that you are discussing, and I hope that you not only get the Palm Beach County League of Cities behind these ideas, but the entire state League of Cities, because that's how we're going to be most successful in getting a lot of your things over the line. With respect to the affordable housing, I am actually working on a bill right now, and based on Representative Ross' comments, I might change my bill a little bit. I wanted to totally repeal the changes, but maybe we'll look into doing a formula, changing the formula. I have a House sponsor, and we've got it in bill drafting, so when the bill comes out, hopefully the League of Cities will take a look at it, and maybe they can be supportive of the legislation, because it will be very much in line with what you said about putting more money into the Sadowski Affordable Housing Fund. In terms of the mobility discussion, I would like to see, so if you have legislation, just as Senator Harrell said, if you give us some ideas about what you want to do, that would be really helpful. And Mayor Comerford, myself and Representative Gossett Seidman are doing a bill called the Safe Water Act. We have filed it. It is Senate Bill 172, and it requires that the Department of Health notify cities and that there be signs put up when water is contaminated with fecal bacteria, and that beaches can be closed if there is fecal bacteria. So that is something that I would love for the league also to look at and consider supporting that legislation. And I have sat on the Transportation Committee with Senator Harrell, and we have discussed ideas about what to do about the road, about the electric vehicles. And my husband has 2 electric vehicles right now and had one in the past. So we're big users of electric vehicles, and we've gotten the benefit of not having to pay the gas tax. But this is a big area, and I don't know. I know there was a proposal to actually put a registration fee every time you buy an electric vehicle. It kind of didn't go over too well. But that's something that we are going to have to figure out as more and more electric vehicles are on the road. But I commend all of you for your presentations. They were really well done, and I look forward to working with you as we continue to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. First and foremost, I have served on the League of Cities Executive Board, Richard, and so I understand some of the issues that we're talking about here today. And it's ironic that a lot of these haven't changed over the years. I'm going to be perfectly frank with you here today, is that Tallahassee, my experience in Tallahassee, is that Tallahassee knows better than local governments, okay? So preemption is like high on the list in Tallahassee. Make no mistake about it, and I think my colleagues will speak for that. It's just the way it is. They think that they can govern local governments better than local government. I was in local government. I was the vice mayor of Boynton Beach for a number of years before I went to the State House. And I took that mindset with me up to Tallahassee. It doesn't work, that it doesn't work. I'd just like to talk about a few things. Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
I agree. We should, these short-term rentals are out of control. They've been out of control for a number of years and continue to be out of control. And what Senator Powell had said, maybe some data, but I had talked to the tax collector, Dorothy Jacks, and she was on her way to a conference. And what we're trying to do in the form of a bill, legislation, is get a, like Senator Powell said, a statewide database, okay, where we put all these rentals in there. So it doesn't go haphazardly. Haverhill doing one way, Boynton Beach doing it one way, Delray doing it another way. I think that would go a long way in doing that. Talking about the Sadowski Fund, money's not going to buy us out of this. We passed a $200 million bond, the county did, Palm Beach County. We don't quite know how that's going to be distributed, but it's not enough. The Sadowski Fund, we talk about the Sadowski Fund. Every time we talk about affordable, it's the Sadowski Fund. It's not going to do it. What we got to start thinking outside the box. Maybe start thinking about infill projects, you know, where shopping centers, commercial buildings are no longer being in use. Okay? And how about not letting the developers buy out of affordable housing units by paying a fee? That is the craziest thing in the world.
Amen.
We shouldn't allow that. And I think that, we give them a little more leeway, and maybe we get some more housing out of it. Mayor Reed, I loved your segue into your little presentation with the little vote there. It was great. But the fact remains that people love their cars. They just love their cars. And we're going to have to do some real drastic changes and make it affordable and presentable to get them to start thinking otherwise. You know, unless gas goes up to $7 a gallon again, or $5 a gallon, whatever it was, people are going to be jumping in their cars, coming up here and buy. Your poll today just goes to show you that. So I agree with you. Mayor, and I agree, our water resources and planning, very important. And look at, I don't always agree with our governor, but I do this time here. He put aside, last year, he put $2 billion into the water projects, the watersheds, the Everglades. And this year, he put another $3 billion in. So I think the state has a good handle on, you know, what's important as far as water here in Florida. And lastly, Mayor O'Connor, I agree with you. But maybe these electric cars, if we're trying to get, you know, get off fossil fuels, such as gasoline and such like this, maybe we could charge some kind of a fee for electric cars. I know Senator Berman won't like this, but maybe we charge some kind of a fee, and that fee goes into putting more charging stations along our highways to make it more practical to be driving electric cars, and start taking it from that perspective. I thank you for your presentation. It's important issues that we talked about here today. We've been talking about them for a while, and it's time to let's put it, you know, to use. Like Mr. Caruso said, that come on up to Tallahassee, you know, committee weeks, and let's get. I know you, Richard, you bring up a little small army up there, and I think that's how things get done during the committee weeks. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Representative Skidmore, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to the League of Cities for this list of priorities. I will just speak on a couple of them. In terms of affordable housing, obviously most of us are fans of the Sadowski Trust Fund and what its purpose is, not fans of how its history, what its history is, and what its current division of resources is. But something that we are experiencing in the state of Florida that is impacting the cost of living and owning a home or property in Florida is property insurance. And that is something that I didn't hear anybody talk about today. Affordable housing might be affordable when you purchase it, but if you can't afford your insurance and you're required to have some because you have a mortgage, it's still not affordable. And we have not solved that problem at all. So this is a great list of priorities, but I would have added into that affordable housing issue the cost of property insurance and no relief in sight. Mayor Reed, you know I share your passion for mobility. I hate driving, Rep. Casello. If I could get out of my car, I would. My lottery dream is to get a driver because there is no public transportation that is really effective. And I recall back when I was in the legislature previously, asking everyone in the delegation, challenging everyone in the delegation to get to their legislative office by bus. No one even really knew how to find out how to do that. So I think that you are definitely on the right track. It didn't sound like you actually have a bill yet, so if you do, or if you're looking for a sponsor, I'd love to get with you on some of those issues, and pairing that, obviously, with some of the other transportation issues and the loss of gas tax that we're anticipating. So thank you very much for the priorities list. On the water resources, Mayor, I have a bill. I am very passionate about the blue economy. That deals with the economic health of our water. So that doesn't happen without the environmental health of our water first. But I have a hydrological map of Florida in my legislative office in Tallahassee, and every part of Florida is blue, and it is all connected. So when we are taking care of the environmental health of our water, we're taking care of the economic health. But without it, we cannot innovate. We can't solve some of those problems where you're looking for innovation. You know, the ocean offers so many solutions, and Florida has not planted the flag of the blue economy, where we are creating the pipeline of academic research, economic development, and startup funding, using the water resources that we have and solving some of the world's most challenging problems. So thank you for your participation in keeping the water healthy from an environmental aspect. And I would love your support on making sure that Florida understands what it owns and keeps its economic health of the water as well. And thank you again for all being here. Great presentations.
Thank you. We're getting a little pressed for time, so we're going to proceed in the following fashion. Senator Polsky, followed by Mr. Shalhoub, followed by Representative Gossett-Seedman, and then we'll wrap it up with Representative Roth.
Thank you. I won't be repetitive because my colleagues have made, I think, all the points that need to be made, but I just wanted to point out one more thing on affordable housing. Senate President Pasadomo has ensured that this is her number one priority, and there will be a very comprehensive bill that will be put forth. And so when that bill comes out, I urge all of you to please look at it. You know, if there's suggestions that need to be made, hopefully we can do that through the committee process. But I am optimistic that we may have an important product coming out of the Senate this year. I hope so. I just wanted to point out one thing that I'm working on that I would love to put on your radar. HB 735 from 2021 preempted contracting licenses for individual contractors that had to go through the state. So the cities wouldn't be able to do individual licenses for certain trades. And I was approached by a fence contractor who said he won't be able to get a license when this goes into effect. He has to become a general contractor, which is not in his purview. So this is something I'm going to be working on this year. If any of you have ideas on that, I'd love to talk to you after. I think it's really important because sometimes there's unintended consequences with these kinds of bills. And with that, I will yield since we're running out of time.
Thank you. Representative Gossett-Seedman.
Yes, thank you. Many of my colleagues have presented opinions that I would respectfully concur. I will point out regarding septic to sewer. I found out the hard way in a neighborhood when I was a town commissioner in Highland Beach that there does not exist in Florida a map of septic tanks, and that many of our historical neighborhoods and neighborhoods prior to the, I believe they said the 90s, neighborhoods did not note where their tanks were buried. And so it was very important for persons and the contractors to call 811 DIG. And this occurred when first a propane tank was severed and then a septic tank was severed on the same lot. No one knew they were buried there. And so it'd be something to add to our looking into it at both kicking the ball back to the league and at the state level getting some kind of a map together regarding the three companies who do oversee this. Regarding the clean water, I am serving on the state, with the state legislature on that committee, and I refer everyone to the Tampa Bay Times ran a story a couple of months back how our Floridan aquifer is in dire straits. We have three aquifers, the Floridian and the Floridan, and the Biscayne, which serves the southeast part of my District 91 through the Keys. Those are two efforts that we can both look into in terms of research and apply to any of our bills, and also kick back to the municipalities on a couple of them. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to wrap it up with Representative Waldron, followed by Mr. Roth.
Thank you. I just want to kind of compliment what Representative Skidmore said about the housing insurance. I think the most recent bill that was passed in the special session took away a lot of rights of the homeowners, which they're going to feel the impact of coming up, and that was an unfortunate bill. But you know, I think that it's important in terms of affordable housing that, and I also want to agree with Representative Casello that I think it's ridiculous that developers are allowed to buy out of affordable housing, especially since we're in such dire straits. And then on TPA, on the mobility issue, I think, you know, we're all like Representative Casella said, everybody likes to get in their car. It's easy. It's flexibility, and, you can just drive somewhere. And until the convenience of that gets a little bit more, a little less convenient, and public transportation gets a little bit more convenient, I think it's going to be an issue. And one of the things I've noticed is, and I know when I was on TPA, the TPA board with you, Mayor, we've always talked about the east-west public transportation issue, and the trains go north and south, and probably a lot of us have been on one Bright Line, but maybe east-west would help the situation a lot, because I know that's where everything gets jammed up anyway. And then back to on affordable housing, I did want to add the infill situation and also upzoning, which they're doing in New York, is important, and that would help a lot. Because the sprawl, if we keep doing the sprawl, it's going to just keep getting worse. So those are my comments. So thanks.
Thank you. Representative Roth.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for members for all being concise on your issues. I just wanted to list 7 issues that I'd like to have follow-up with any member of the League of Cities or city commissioners or mayors. First one is vacation rentals. Totally against vacation rentals as it's been pushed the last couple of years. Talk about occupancy caps and public safety, I think, are critical, and also the collection of funds. We get $50 million in tourist tax in Palm Beach County, at least in 2019. The idea of making sure that every time we talk about affordable housing, we talk about transportation. So if we're going to build light rail from Wellington Mall to downtown West Palm Beach, we ought to make sure it goes past some affordable housing. Concurrency is an issue that I think we've gotten backwards over the years, and we need to come back to concurrency. Bicycle safety, it's a very touchy subject, but I think if we're really going to promote more other vehicles on the road, talk about widening roads like we did in Wellington, we need to be talking about licensing those other vehicles so we have a stream of revenue, because there are people that are getting killed in automobile bicycle accidents. We've had 2 in Palm Beach County the last couple of years. Plan unit developments, all of them should be required to have sewer infrastructure. That's another issue that I would love to see more support on. City and counties' share of sales tax revenue, I would like to have discussions with people that are definitely more informed than I am on that. I think there's an opportunity to talk about how you get that revenue. And the last one is DOT tax on charging stations. Charging stations should have to have, in my opinion, a sales tax that goes to the FDOT for transportation. Thank you.
All righty, we're nearing 11 o'clock, and if there are no other comments.
I just have one last comment. I don't see any other cards up. Do you mind? I'll make it quick. I just want to clarify. I'm here representing mobility fees. If we want to talk about funding for light rail down Okeechobee or funding for transit for Palm Tran, that's more of a county surtax issue specific to today. And I'm sorry if my questioning about how you got here or mentioning what it could be like to have light rail. I'm here today to try to clarify writing that already exists about mobility plans and fees. They were already put in place. However, the way they are written leaves it so that cities and counties wind up fighting about it because the state statute isn't clear. So I'm here to represent clarifying the state statutes on mobility fees. Would I like to fly here one day in an electric vehicle? Absolutely. But that's not going to happen with this. This is something that is a quick fix that will save municipalities and counties from suing each other again and again, and actually give people the opportunity to not just widen roads or add turn lanes if they don't need to. A lot of areas are so built out, you can't widen another road. But there's still impact fees collected. So what's the point when you could actually utilize it to get your residents around on micromobility or something like that? So I just want to clarify what the mobility plan is.
We have 1 minute for one question if anybody has one.
One statement.
Go ahead.
Just
1 minute.
Point of clarity. Representative Raw, did you just advocate for an additional tax?
I'm not your typical representative.
He's a senior.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, well, thank you all so much for coming. This is obviously a robust discussion. It doesn't need to end here. I'm going to encourage all of you to visit Tallahassee, reach out to us. When bills come across, it's hard for us to always know the impacts to the cities or your individual city or the League of Cities. So please continue to reach out to us and let us know. We need your help. We need your advocacy. Many of us have bills on many of these issues, so we'd love your support. We'll pass along ours to you that we think fall into your purview, and would ask that you put them on your agenda to help us get our legislation passed as well. Did you have something to say, Rep. Casello?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just for the record, I have a couple of bill slots open, so if we can sit here and, get on the same page here, maybe we could file something that's of interest.
That's great, and the senators have unlimited bills, so if you can find a House member first, that's step one. If you have language, Mayor Reed, on what you're talking about, I think that's what people need, something specific. We would love to see it, and with that, Rep. Casello says we adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.